Hi students, so this is Alex from texture class. I just wanted to make a quick follow-up on the finishing touches for project one. Um, so I made some little adjustments now that there's a couple concepts that weren't seen in class yet. So now that we've seen those concepts last class, which is a bit more generators and anchor points, so I'll show you these little steps that are missing in order to get the real final result on the hammer so that you can have it on your portfolio, for example. So over here, I added metal edge wear on the edges. So on here, it's really subtle, but so in order for it to read a bit more from a distance, this is why I made it a bit bigger, but still you get these highlights over here. So for visual interests, where it just removes everything. So what I did here is I basically just grouped everything that was rust, and then in here, so once all these are grouped, so what it says it is that it hides the rust copy here, the rust height. So I added some bump with an anchor point. I'll show you later, and then the spots for the rust. So these ones will be hidden with the mask that's here. So what happens is that it's showing the underneath layers, which are the shiny metal, so which is what we want. So we want that metal to be a bit more shiny than the rest because of it's been damaged on these edges. So what I did here is I created the generator. So over here, add generator, and this generator is a metal edge wear uh, that I played around with the values to have control over the thickness of the lines and so on and so forth. And then once that was done, in order to have the effect less equal, so I added a fill layer with the black and white spots to create some, so in lighten mode, so that there's more light that shines through here. And then with the levels, it just clamps up the value where it hides basically um, whatever information I feel is too much. So this gives me more control over to the original generator. There's controls over here, but I wanted the lines to be a bit more chaotic. So this is why I did those steps. So without the levels, you see how equal and uniform it is. So this is just there to clamp up the values of what I have here in my fill layer to hide the previous layer. So that's the first step. And then, because all the rust was, everything was in the same um, stack. So if I added height over here, it added it even to where there were barely any rust, so the metal parts here. This is because it's not a plain black over here. It's probably a gray. So yeah, so that means that this is why some texture is coming through. So I removed the height completely from this one. I could just disable the channel if I want to. Over here, I remove height. Okay, and then in the mask on top of everything, in order to have exactly the same shape as the shapes that I have here that are defining the rust patches. So I created an anchor point. So that anchor point keeps in memory whatever this visual information is. And then what I did is I went in and I created a some height information. So if you look at here, so I created the fill with generated like normal noise, so black and white spots, because I wanted this to be pretty defined. And then, so if you look at the reference, there's little bumps over here, and then I added a warp in order to get some more interesting uh, details inside those bumps. And then I added some, what's this one? Oh, so yeah, so I refilled, so let's show you here. So what this layer does here is, so basically it's, let's say I'm building this up, so I'm just doing a fill with a black and white spots. I'm adding the warp, and then this here is just to fill again the anchor point of this. So if we look here, so I want this area not to be affected by the bumps. So I fill instead of with a texture, I fill it with the anchor point, which in this case is rust head. And then, so that gives me this. And so since I want this to be visible and this to be, or the opposite, I don't remember. So yeah, I want this to not be affected with the bump. So I'll take a look at the mask, this part here, and in the fill, I can just clamp the black so that it hides the information from this, and I still have the visual information of that. So what I'm doing is basically taking this information over here, filling this here, so this with the anchor point, I'm able to fill it here, and I'm playing with the anchor point fill with the level that's included over here in order to completely hide the height that's over here. So the height is appearing only where the rust spots are, which is exactly what I'm looking for. Okay, and then another thing that I think was missing was a bit of dirt slash dust over here. So I made it a bit subtle. I think you guys can make it a bit more clear. So if we go back to the middle part, so we're here. So on top of everything, the idea of the lasagna again is this is the topping. This is what's on the surface. So I added concrete. So I did a fill. Oh, it's right here. So I dragged and dropped this over here. I removed the height. So I put it at 0 because it's a surface dust. So it doesn't have any thickness if you look over here. And then I changed the color to match the reference over here to something that's like brownish, even darker. And then from there, I created a black mask and a generator. That generator is dirt, so it understands because of the bake where it meets something else. So this is what it's doing. So then I removed a lot of the grunge amount so that the dirt is mostly on here. What you could do also is to manually add paint and just with a brush, let's go in alphas, choose something that has like a dirt texture, something like this is interesting. So you could just, so over here we'll change the angle so that when I click it always rotates, and then we'll change the flow so that it's not constant. So in the a bit of the position, and I would like the oops, paint. I would like the, okay, let's start with this. So I'll Alt and Shift to lock the view in place, and then I can click outside the mesh, press Shift again to have it draw a line for it to be a straight line right here, and then I can do the same with another brush, or the same brush if I want, and with the eraser tool. So I pressed E in my case because I added that shortcut, and then I'll lower the opacity, and I'll do the same thing a couple times to remove a bit of the information over here, so that there's chaos over here, and there's some visual information as well. So it might not be one to one to the reference, but I mean, the idea is to just get some dirt over here. So if I look with the light, so this is probably coming from the dirt. Yeah, I don't like this, so I'll add another paint. So this one is technically lightened. You don't have to change the paint layers. But then this one I'll have to. So this one will be multiply, and then I'll paint in black. So with a brush, so now I'm eraser, this way there's no color. So B in my case for brush, and then I go to black. And then let me just change the opacity of this. Anyways, I'm not trying to make it perfect now. As long as you understand the idea, I'll make it cuter on my own. So it made the little dirt at the bottom too, and it creates this surface dirt as well. So this, again, if I don't want it, I could just erase it or anything. And then what's missing, I feel too, is that little dirt either in the scratches or in the holes. So I'll show you how to do the holes. So if we go find the mask for those paint spots, it's over here. So I'm adding an anchor point. So let me redo this. So over here, add anchor point. So I'll call this missing paint. And then what I'll do, so am I still in the middle part? Yes. So what I'll do is I'll do a fill. This fill will be black in my case. Okay, I know this is a bit tricky, so you can rewind this. I'll try to make it clear. So this is it's sort of ambient occlusion inside the holes. So I will fake it. So here, and then add black mask to remove this. So what we'll do is we'll fill this with the anchor point. So we add a fill, and then click here, get the anchor point, which is missing paint. So right now it's reversed, right? So we'll do invert over here, okay? So what we're trying to do is to recreate those little, there's some black around the edges of those holes. So we'll redo this. So with the fill, it creates the inversed mask. So we'll then either play around with this and see what it gives us. This is not what it's not working. So I'll do just like the usual, filter blur. So it blurs it out. You see, so this is what I'm going for, but the opposite. So then, okay, so we want the opposite. So what we do, levels, and then invert, right? So But the thing is that now from doing this, what happens is that this is now visible as black, right? So we have this little black outline that's really subtle at the moment. So we can increase the value by with playing um, the little things over here. Let's say this is what I want here. So how am I able to remove the rest is by simply just adding a new fill and getting again that anchor point of the missing paint spots. So right now it's what it does. So it's in normal. So this is the only thing you see. So what it does is it highlights what's in white and hide what's in black. So what we want to do is the opposite, right? So we want this area to be black so that it's not visible. So we'll just do an invert, and now you'll see. So we're back to square one, where um, the dots inside are black, but then what we'll do is we'll do this as multiply. Oh, lighten. It's not multiply. So yeah, sorry. So multiply, and then by doing a multiply, you see how it hid everything that was around. So now the only thing um, that we see is the blur and levels that we did from the existing mask to get a shape that's inside those, and then we mask this with the same mask that we had initially. Now it's a bit strong and it's a bit too even. So what we can do is add something to mask this. So in this layer, we can just add an additional noise. So let's say add fill. We'll do, I don't know, clouds, for example. So we'll do clouds 3, it has more contrast. And then we'll do this as multiply. So we'll just clamp, so I do the multiply first so that I can play around with the values and see exactly what I'll get as a result. So I don't want the contrast to be too high, but then we'll lower the opacity. The tiling is a bit big at the moment. I'll put this in triplanar so that if there's a seam, it doesn't show. So by putting in triplanar, you see how now we have some black over here, but none over here, which is in the reference, there's sometimes no black around, and then, oh, there's some here. So that makes it a lot more believable, well, really closer to what we have on the left side. So I'll just go back here. I'll just make sure that I have just a color. This is the only layer that we need, and then I'll lower the intensity to have it really more subtle. Height, so let's go back to bicycle color and then lower the intensity. So yeah, so I think that this just adds a little bit more dimension to the holes that we created earlier on. And I feel it makes it a bit more on the interesting part because it makes those holes pop more. Even from a distance, it creates those area variations that really makes them stand out, but not evenly. It doesn't feel like it's a generated texture. It feels like it's been there, but unevenly. So yeah, so I think from doing these things, another thing is the cracks. We could add dirt over here. So if we do, so I'll show you another interesting process. So these are my scratches over here. If you look, if I disable, we see that they're there. So this is exactly what I want. So over here, what I'll do is I'll add an anchor point. that anchor point. So this is the scratches anchor point. And then, so when I go back to my dirt over here, so the dirt affects over here and at the bottom, right? Because it understands with the bake that these two meshes are meeting. But then in order for this to show up in terms of, of dirt, you have to tell it that this is a value to consider as well. So into your dirt, you can go down and sorry, by default this is false. So in micro height actually, so because it's a black and white image, so in our situation it's a black and white anchor point that we're filling in this. So micro height, put this at true, sorry, and then in the micro height down here you'll do anchor points and then scratches. So you see how now it's understanding that there are scratches everywhere and that it's applying dirt pretty much. So this is by far too much, and this is not interesting at all. So what I'll do is I'll duplicate this. So duplicate layers. I'll remove this effect from the dirt here. I'll remove that as well. And then over here, I'll have this separately so that I can hide this at my convenience. So let's say dirt scratches. Okay, so now with the dirt, so we can play around with the values. We'll lower the dirt level so that it's, so this is why I put it in a separate level, because playing with this would have affected the distance of this and the effect, so I wanted to keep this one as is. So this is why I'm creating a new dirt for just the scratches this time. So now it makes a lot more sense, but you see it's a lot less sharp. So I think we should just add a blur onto here. Filter and then blur. Already this is better. It's a bit jagged, but so let's say 0.2. And then I think I'll just go hide. There's lots of those scratches that we see that are barely visible on the surface. So I'd love to remove those and just keep it for the bigger scratches. I know we have some more control over here into the curvature, for example, and height details. So, oh yeah, you can play around with those. So at the height, what's this? Which one did I play with? I think it was height details intensity. Yeah. So it basically checks the height value and it just lowers or intensifies the intensity of this. So let me just lower this. And even if it's a bit too low, we can still come in with the levels and just adjust it. But I feel that this is close to what we're looking for. I'll still add a level, but this time to sort of remove a bit of the effect. So I think I'll need to add some black, yes, to remove, so that there's just this much dirt in the bigger scratches. Yep. So just subtle enough, but still it adds to the whole lived with kind of aspect of this. And yeah, so I feel that's the finishing touches, and of course the dots that are here. True, we could do the same with the dirt over here, but this I think I'll cover in class, so that because we're doing this with the manhole, so this type of dirt being affected in by the material itself is we're going to see in class. So that's it for that. I hope you appreciate the video and that you see it add to both your learning and to your process when texturing. But yeah, I think it really feels a lot more solid with just these little touches, and it just makes it a lot more interesting visually. It just connects everything together and makes them make more sense as well. All right, so have a great weekend, you guys, and I hope you have fun texturing. Bye.